1988, South Korea. An adult and very drunk man ends up at the police station. His name is Oh-soo, and he shows the policeman a photo of his 3-year-old daughter, whose birthday is today. Oh-soo boasts of a gift, angel wings, which he bought with the money left over from drinking. He is taken from the police station by his old friend Wang, under personal guarantee. While Wang is calling the friend's wife at home, Oh-soo suddenly disappears. Oh-soo wakes up in solitary confinement in a private prison. A spacious room with a TV and a toilet is not much different from a motel room, but there are no windows or a telephone. After 2 months, Oh-soo begins to show attacks of aggression, because he does not understand why he was placed here and how long his imprisonment will last. Oh-soo simply begins to go crazy from the injustice of what is happening, but the person who brings him food always remains silent. A year later, Oh-soo learns from the news that his wife was killed with extreme cruelty, and nothing valuable disappeared from the house. Also, law enforcement officers found Oh-soo's prints and blood at the crime scene, which makes him the main suspect. Shocked, Oh-soo begins to write a memoir about his past life, mentioning all his sins and the people he hurt. Oh-soo doesn't know who imprisoned him here, but now he has a checklist, just for case he ever manages to leave the prison. And in order to guarantee revenge for the crippled life, every day Oh-soo hits the wall, hardening his fists and releasing his anger. After 15 years of imprisonment, a stranger comes to Oh-soo and hypnotizes him. Later, he wakes up in a suitcase on the roof of a high-rise building, and Oh-soo recognizes this area, because exactly here he was kidnapped that day. Over the past years, a house was built on the site of the telephone booth, and it was no coincidence that Oh-soo ended up here, but it is not clear who needs such symbolism. Oh-soo sees a man who wants to jump from the roof because he thinks his life is bad. Oh-soo touches another person for the first time in 15 years, trembles from the oncoming touches, and tells his story. Now Oh-soo is wanted for murder, plus the lack of housing and money complicates his plan to carry out revenge. Oh-soo takes the elevator downstairs and can barely control himself when a woman comes inside. Later, Oh-soo takes the cigarette from the teenagers and enjoys the long-forgotten aroma. Strangers push Oh-soo to the ground, but this only makes him happy, because now it's time to test his boxing skills. The years of training were not in vain, and Oh-soo is pleased with the result. Afterwards, he goes to watch the fish in the aquarium, when suddenly a stranger appears and hands Oh-soo a phone and wallet. The man does not explain who he is and why he gives money for free, but simply disappears silently. First of all, Oh-soo wants to eat well, so he goes to a sushi bar. There, Oh-soo meets a beautiful girl, Mi-do, who works as a cook. Her face seems familiar to Oh-soo, but this does not surprise Mi-do, because she participated in a cooking TV show. Suddenly the phone, given to Oh-soo by a stranger on the street, rings. A certain man says that school is over for Oh-soo, and now it's time for homework. The stranger hangs up, leaving Oh-soo with even more questions and riddles, and from this he immediately loses consciousness. Oh-soo wakes up in Mi-do's apartment, who has already read his memoirs. Mi-do is a friendly and helpful girl, so she invites Oh-soo to figure out this mysterious story together and find the culprit. For 15 years, Oh-soo has seriously lacked female attention, so he breaks into the bathroom and pesters Mi-do. She rejects him but is not offended, because Mi-do likes him. First of all, Oh-soo wants to find the restaurant from which food was brought to him in prison for 15 years. And all this time he ate only one dish, fried dumplings. The same dumplings that Korean restaurants give for free as a bonus to the main course. In one of them, Oh-soo once found a piece of a business card with the word dragon on it. Together with Mi-do, Oh-soo tries fried dumplings in dozens of restaurants called Dragon, because this will help identify the courier and find out the location of the prison. There is not possible to forget the taste of the food you eat every day for 15 years, and this helps Oh-soo. His search for dumplings leads him to the Blue Dragon restaurant, and Oh-soo learns about a courier who delivers a large order to the same place and time every day. Oh-soo follows the courier and finds a secret private prison where he spent 15 years. Oh-soo neutralizes the guard with a hammer, then tortures the senior overseer to find out the name of the person who ordered the kidnapping. The beatings and unconventional dentistry do not add the overseer any memory, and Oh-soo understands that the customer is cunning and anonymous. Oh-dae-soo is about to leave when suddenly a dozen guards fill the narrow corridor. Oh-dae-soo is probably guided by the tactics of the Battle of Thermopylae, so he takes advantage of the cramped space and does not allow himself to be surrounded. Oh-dae-soo neutralizes all the guards and leaves the prison building. Exhausted and wounded, he goes out to the road and falls to the ground, when suddenly a stranger runs up and helps Oh-dae-soo get up. A young guy calls a taxi, seats Oh-dae-soo, and pays for the trip. Oh-dae-soo thanks the stranger when suddenly he gives Mi-do's address and says goodbye to Oh-dae-soo, calling him by name. This circumstance infuriates Oh-dae-soo even more because he feels like a test subject who is constantly being watched. Later, Oh-dae-soo becomes interested in who Mi-do is communicating with via video call. Oh-dae-soo approaches the computer when suddenly the stranger smiles and says hi, again addressing Oh-dae-soo by his first name. Then Oh-dae-soo goes to his friend Wang, whom he has not seen for 15 years, and he is glad to see Oh-dae-soo return, and is even ready to help find the guy who communicated with Mi-do under the nickname Evergreen. Together they find this person on the network, and Wang finds the IP address of Evergreen. Oh-dae-soo finds out that this is an apartment in the next building from Mi-do's home and runs there. Oh-dae-soo knocks down the door, goes inside and sees the same guy, Evergreen. He is the only one who is responsible for entire nightmare that has been happening to Oh-dae-soo for the last 15 years. Evergreen sets a condition: within 5 days, Oh-dae-soo must investigate himself and find out why he was sent to prison. Otherwise, Evergreen will kill Mi-do, as well as all the women who are close to him. Oh-dae-soo is about to test Evergreen's health through torture when he suddenly reveals a large scar on his chest. Evergreen has a weak heart and is implanted with a stimulator that can be turned off at any time using a remote control. Evergreen is not afraid of death and will not endure torture, so he appeals to Oh-dae-soo's curiosity rather than to a sense of revenge, which still will not give him the answers he needs. Oh-dae-soo returns home and finds Mi-do tied up by armed men. Their boss takes revenge on Oh-dae-soo for the prison warden with the same beatings and unconventional dentistry. When the bandits leave, Oh-dae-soo frees Mi-do, and her wounded body shows him that she can now be trusted. Since everything around Oh-dae-soo is happening like a performance, he is sincerely glad that Mi-do's appearance in his life happened by chance. An unusual evening and stress helps Mi-do to sympathize with Oh-dae-soo even more than before, and she makes love to him. The next day, Oh-dae-soo arrives at the school where he graduated. It's called Evergreen, and Oh-dae-soo doesn't think it's an accident. Among the alumni albums, Oh-dae-soo finds his kidnapper under the name Lee, and remembers that he had a sister, Soo. She didn't graduate from high school because she jumped off a high bridge and drowned, which is why her face is missing from the photographs. Wang also studied at this school, so he tells Oh-dae-soo on the phone that he remembers Soo as the most popular harlot. Many people took advantage of her lust, like Oh-dae-soo himself, but he doesn't remember this. Wang stops talking because he is being strangled by the suddenly appeared Lee, who has lost his composure from such insults towards his late sister. Wang dies, and Lee tells Oh-dae-soo that this death is on his conscience. An angry Oh-dae-soo shouts into the phone that he will find and kill Lee, no matter what the cost. Oh-dae-soo returns to the school grounds so that familiar places will refresh his memory about Soo, and it works, as Oh-dae-soo remembers the day he saw Soo late after studying in a classroom with Lee, her brother. First he photographed his sister, then took off her underwear and began kissing her private parts. Soon, Soo noticed Oh-dae-soo peeping, and he hurried to his classmate Wang to tell about what he saw. Oh-dae-soo demanded that the incident be kept secret, but Wang did not keep his promise. So the whole school learned about Lee's love for his sister. Oh-dae-soo believes that he has found the reason for his 15-year imprisonment, because in this way Lee took revenge for the shame of his family, which drove Soo to suicide. He returns to Mi-do, who offers to disappear and forget about the past, but Oh-dae-soo does not agree because revenge has become a part of his life. Anger for the death of Wang forces Oh-dae-soo to find Lee's apartment in order to finish what he started and not live the rest of his life in fear. When they first talk on the phone, Lee mentions a quote from a parable about a high tower, and Oh-dae-soo takes this as a clue in his search. He says goodbye to Mi-do because he doesn't know if he can return. While she is praying for Oh-dae-soo, he arrives at the tallest skyscraper in the city, the elevator of which is locked with a password to access the top floor. While Oh-soo is trying to guess the code, Lee suddenly enters the elevator and together they go up to the penthouse. There, Oh-soo gives his version of events. After the spread of rumors and general condemnation, Soo noticed her growing belly and was overcome with horror because Lee would be her father and uncle at the same time. Lee smiles and says how it really happened. Due to constant stress, Soo lost her period and her belly began to grow. But Lee had nothing to do with this. Soo, full of panic, didn't know she had become pregnant due to rumors spread by Oh-soo. On the day of her death, Lee was with her sister at the bridge. It was only after Soo's death Lee learned that his sister was not pregnant, a fact that made him hate Oh-soo for what he had done. Lee also admits that he used the services of an outstanding hypnotist to program Oh-soo and Mi-do into a serious relationship. A lonely person is not so easily driven into despair, Lee believes, so he made Oh-soo fall in love with Mi-do, so that later he would personally feel the pain of love within the family. Lee points to the box where Oh-soo finds the photo album and opens the first page. It shows Oh-soo with his wife and 2-year-old child, and then with each new photo, he watches his own daughter grow up to become Mi-do. Lee considers the revenge complete because he put Oh-soo in the same position. Filled with unprecedented rage, Oh-soo rushes to kill Lee, when suddenly Lee says that he sent the same album to Mi-do. Love for her becomes stronger than a revenge, so on his knees, Oh-soo begs Lee not to let Mi-do find out the truth. Oh-soo repents of his actions and asks for forgiveness for the rumors he spread. As atonement for his guilt, Oh-soo cuts off his tongue and suffers from unbearable pain. And only now Lee orders not to show Mi-do the photo album. Leaving, Lee finally admits that he and Soo loved each other, and now when the act of revenge is completed, he does not know why he should continue to live. Lee is left alone with his thoughts and remembers how he could not hold the hand of his sister, who was already hanging over the abyss. Lee is tormented and cannot find redemption for himself, so he takes out a gun and goes to his sister. Later, Oh-soo finds the same hypnotist and asks her to erase from his memory everything he heard in the penthouse, especially about his relationship with Mi-do. The hypnotist fulfills the request and Oh-soo wakes up in a snowy forest. Where Mi-do finds him, she confesses her love to Oh-soo, so he smiles and then cries, either from happiness or from hypnosis that didn't work.